cloud. We are good. So welcome everyone to your Future Leaders Today Finance and Crypto Call, 16th of Feb session. I started working it out like 60. I'm just going to work out who's typing. That's Andy with the loudest keyboard in the world. It's okay, I've muted you. It's okay, don't you worry. Okay, cool. So welcome everybody. I want to just start by saying a really big thank you for Austin, who's super keen and engaged and is giving us tons of questions and probing and all sorts of stuff, and actually asked for 2 calls a week last time. So we're not quite at that yet. But maybe one day, Austin, maybe one day. But thank you very much. Did we manage to get the screen sharing sorted? Yes. What was it? God, I can't even remember what it was now. I turned something off. I can't remember what it was, but I found it was Kirsty that actually got me onto it. I had to do an SMC reset of the management console for a Mac since I upgraded to Big Sur. So anyone else that's a Mac user, and since I've done that, my Mac's a lot better as well. Big Sur, the first version, causes a bit of a can cause a bit of a glitch, like with fingerprints and stuff. So as soon as I did that, screen sharing was fine. So we're ready to rock. So there's a few of us on this call, but I'm aware that Ben's new. Will's not. He's only been on a couple of calls, same for Dom. So I think what I'm going to do is, for like Ben, who is new, myself and Richard, who for me is on that screen down there. And I think I can force you all to see the same order, but I won't do it at the minute. Myself and Richard just kind of, it just helps a lot now on these calls and what we're doing, pulling them together, is to really kind of be a bridge for people coming from like not even knowing how to spell crypto all the way through to having their water wings on and being out there and treading the water of crypto in a safe space. And then there's a little bit of a slide that then takes you into the crazy world of altcoins. And there's different levels and layers of understanding all the way through. And we want to kind of be part of this financial revolution. We are going through the biggest transference in wealth the world's ever seen. And most people aren't even aware of it. And it's that wake-up call that kind of inspired me to go, do you know what, I want to at least be contributing to that. So it's really good to see these groups going. Wonderful questions, and we're just starting to pull together a bit of a course for people. So we're not answering the same questions all the time, although I do want to caveat that. If you have a question, honestly, guys, just ask it, because what we don't want is a group where people have any fear or, I don't know, like silly questionitis, all that sort of stuff. It's really good to have an open group. And I love the fact that everyone helps to answer all sorts of questions. So that is really, really cool. I'm curious to see where we have any exotic locations. Ben, I have a feeling that you're not in the UK. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in Southern California, Orange County. I guess the nearest landmark that most people might have heard of is Disneyland.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. What is it, just after, what time are you then? I'm on Eastern time.
Yeah, it's 12:09 here in on the West Coast.
West Coast. Oh, I always thought Eastern time was West
British
Coast.
expat then.
Oh no, West Coast.
Yeah, I'm from London, West London. I've lived here since 2004. So I have a Vietnamese refugee wife who I met when I was working in Vietnam, and couldn't persuade her to move to London. So I ended up in sunny Southern California for my sins.
Awesome.
That sounds terrible.
Just really quickly then, on a side note, I only thought there was one Disneyland in America. Are there 2?
There's Disney World in Florida and Disneyland in California.
Which one came first?
Probably Disney. Well, I don't know. Good question.
Did it change the names? Because I feel
Disneyland came first. It was the first part.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the one in California, West Coast, came before the one in Florida with all the alleged CIA sales of land that shouldn't be sold. Yeah?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, we won't talk about that. That's okay. It never happened. Cool. Okay, well, thank you very much. So I'm not going to do, sometimes we do a round robin. It'll take too long with us all here. I will just ask Ben though. Normally, Ben, we kind of share just where we're at with things. This group pretty much, I'm going to speak for everybody here, contains people that have been with us on a pretty long journey. Some started with no idea of crypto, but everyone's got some now and is kind of onboarded. Still a couple of people that are earlier on. Some of us have been in it for like 3 years. So I'm just curious where your, how long you've been in crypto, and just where you put yourself in a on a scale of understanding, just so that we've got a bit of an idea as we go into this call.
Sure. Well, I first got into Bitcoin and crypto unfortunately, towards the peak of the market in November 2017. I was getting bombarded with sales pitches by a guy called Tika Tiwari, who runs a newsletter called Palm Beach Confidential. I subscribed. I started buying Bitcoin at around probably $13,000. And continued on faith to buy it all the way down to 3,000. I also bought a portfolio of his recommended alternative coins, which I really didn't understand, but I thought, he seemed a knowledgeable guy. So of course they all went, I lost 90% of the value in just about everything on paper, but I held on to everything and I continued buying on dips. And so I have a few good coins. I don't have much of anything, but I've got a few that have, never really recovered from the bursting of the bubble. But, I was able to pick up some Cardano and, other things on some dips. And, but the reason I met you, Daniel, in the Retirement Plan B coaching is that I'm really trying to simplify my life and go as passive as possible. So I'm not sure if this is necessarily the right group for me. I'm not looking to get any more active. In fact, I'm looking to get less active. I will still buy maybe a few altcoins that I see recommended, but my wife doesn't understand anything about crypto or finance or money or technology. And I'm feeling my age and I have health issues. And so I'm trying to go more passive and leave something easy for her to manage if anything does happen to me. So, but I'm interested in learning from you guys, and I'll give it a try and see if this is a good fit for me. But I'm suspecting that I'm probably going to be too much of a passive investor than the rest of you.
That's cool. Like, I think definitely as we move forward and we have more themed calls, there's certainly a small group of us who are more interested in the sort of stuff you're interested in, which is kind of like, wealth rungs 4 and 5, where you really, how do I make my money work for me? So when we start those, I think you'd find those more fitting and more suitable for what you're looking for. Like for this call in particular, we're kind of going through staking, lending. I still wanted to have some conversations around margin calls. And then we leave a lot of the call open for people to just pepper in with bits of questions and stuff like that. We're fairly free flow, but we're going to start to move to a certain structure. So then you might just want to check in on the calls that are super relevant for yourself, or just be in the group to just give and receive, really. But by all means, feel it out, see where you're at, and I'm sure whatever works out right for you will become quite clear. Cool. Okay, and I think I just wanted an update from Will. I'm not seeing your face in a while. Where did you get to after the last time you came on a call, Will? Are you in now or still on the fence?
Yeah, so hi guys. Yeah, long time, so been quite busy, but I started to buy in FOMO mode, I guess, as soon as Bitcoin started to go up in December. But I've learned a lot since then. A few altcoins, different things. And just experimenting with small amounts, seeing what I can do on different wallets, following a lot of your advice on the messenger on Telegram, which has been really fantastic, very valuable. And yeah, just enjoying it really, because it's all been up so far.
It has all been up. I'm the same as Ben. I got in at the kind of like peak tail end of the 2017 run. So I've experienced the what it really means to hodl all the way down, which is a skill. And now the upwards got a very different feeling. But at some point, we are gonna peak. We're in a little bit of just took a bit of a dip recently, and a bit of capitulation, sideways movement. And then we'll be going back up again until we drop down. So we'll certainly all get to share in that journey of what that feels like. And it will make us all ask very different questions and decisions soon, I've no doubt. Cool. Okay, man. So what the general theme for today's call is around, I I suppose using Celsius as an example, it's around, they use the term staking, but really it's kind of more like I like to think of it more like an interest account. It's not, but it's probably the closest representation, because staking kind of means something different. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then a bit of a conversation around extracting wealth from it, taking money from it without selling. So we're talking about borrowing from your assets and borrowing from the money that you've got, why you would do that, and then some of the terminology around it. So just by show of hands, or you can click the little thumbs up button. And if you want to ask a question, kind of just wave your hand. I've got everyone on screen, so I should see you, or you can click the hand up button if you want. I do that at any point. But who's using Celsius, the app, right now? Just kind of like give me some sort of indication. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to assume everyone else is not. That's fine. And then of the people that are using Celsius, who's actually ever used the borrow feature from Celsius? Nobody. Okay, cool. So I'm going to come to someone else for this. Alan, I usually like pick on you at this point, because I like the fact that you knew nothing last year and have come through a lot through that.
I know even less now.
So I'd really love your take on why you use Celsius.
Mostly because you told me to.
It's really hoping you wouldn't say that. You're meant to know why you do something.
The rates are very good without tie-in periods. So that was why I went for it. So I could get decent rates on crypto.com, but I'd have to tie in for 3 months or 6 months. So when I was deciding that this is stuff I'm going to hodl for a long time, I thought I can put it there. Very simple. I don't really need to do anything. I don't need to, just put it there. And once it's there, it's earning good rates. And I can choose to earn my interest in either the coin that is in there, like Bitcoin would be paid in Bitcoin. The interest would be paid in Bitcoin, or I can have it paid in Celsius. And it's compound interest, which is very important, which is better than regular interest. And there's other things that I can do on there, like the borrow feature, which I haven't had occasion to use yet. And also, some of the reason I went there was based on what Daniel said, because he did tell me how much he liked the project and the people behind it, and that he trusted the company and the ethos, etc. So that does come into it. That's not just a joke.
Yeah, okay, no, that's fair enough. We take a lot of actions based on the people that we know, like, and trust. I think that's totally standard of human behavior. I think that's half the thing sometimes in crypto is like people want to do something, but they just need someone that they have some je ne sais quoi trust over, in a way, and then that helps them to make a decision. I'm curious if Richard would add any additional reasons there of why Celsius is in your pocket of choice when it comes to the massive array of places that you can put your money in crypto.
I think it's because it's easy as well, and that's definitely got a lot to play with it. I think making a decision about it is always about trust, and the founder is just super visible. You can find out anything. You can ask him anything every Friday if you join the chats. There isn't any other lending platform that really gives as much to people that are using it. I think that's really, really important. For example, some people asked a week or two ago about insurance, insuring the pots, because that's obviously a concern when you're lending your crypto. And they just said, yeah, good idea. We're going to introduce that in a couple of months. So for me, it gives me more and more confidence that it's going to be safer. It's just going to keep getting better and better based on them listening to the users. That's what really appeals to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think just for future stuff, Richard, as well, when you're speaking, switch your mic and your camera. That probably helps to just get clearer audio out. I would definitely agree with that. And so for, like, if people aren't using using Celsius, I would ask you to ask yourself the question, what are you using? And if you want to keep your money super safe and it's on a ledger, like a hardware wallet, totally fine. That's a different conversation, because it's always a trade-off between like being given some value, but in exchange for what? And the exchange when you're on Celsius is it's not, stored in a cold storage somewhere else. But in exchange for that, what you're getting from Celsius, in my opinion, is really good rates of return. From a company which I personally deem quite trustworthy, very trustworthy, and safe, and from a CEO who has got 7 unicorn companies behind himself and incredibly visual. And that's important because so many CEOs aren't, and they're usually with companies which have got a little bit more smoke and mirrors about them. To give you an idea though of like the sorts of ways you can use it, we had I've got a friend of mine who remained nameless, who's got a company, and that company sat on, let's say, like a, 200K cash reserve, because that's what they need. But they never really dip into it much. And I know we're all in different spaces in terms of what cash is available. And I had a client this morning who's got 10 grand. And so the friend that's got quite a bit of money, he's going to put, looking at putting 100 grand into either Celsius or Swissborg. And that will net him anywhere from $1.5 grand to $3 grand a month in interest. And the friend that's going to put 10 grand in, if they just go on the simple one with Celsius, they'll get £100 a month coming in. And this is a person who just always has that 10 grand. That's their nest egg that's sat there for them. And the concept and the idea that they'll get £100 a month from that is just mind blowing. So you still have to, whenever you're looking at the money that you've got, you still got to weigh up what risk is there, how likelihood is there of that risk. But it's a way that your money is beginning to work for you. And I know Ben's aware from this, we share a program that we're on called Retirement Plan B. Austin asks, is the money insured when it's being loaned out? So the reason they pay that interest is because they're making money elsewhere. So I think the short answer to that is no. I don't think it is insured. But you have to look at, first of all, they are beginning to offer insurance for everything on their platform, but that's very new. But Celsius are sat on a is it 200 billion or 2 billion? I don't know if anyone knows the answer to that. I saw it yesterday. Whatever they're sat on, it's either 2 billion or 200 billion cash reserves, right? And when you add up the amount of collateral that people have got in Celsius, so the amount of coins, the value of those coins that are locked up in Celsius, plus their cash reserves, and then you take off what they lend out, they have substantially more here to cover this. So no, it's not insured. The loans aren't insured. But as a company, Celsius is incredibly cash rich. When you compare that to companies like Nexo and BlockFi, they are not cash rich. They are living off money from VC investment, venture capitalists. So I don't know if Nexus and BlockFi are over collateralized or lending out more than they should do. But the idea is, even if you had a flash crash, even if Celsius, all of a sudden the loans weren't paid back, they have enough in them as a company, as an entity, to cover the loss of any coins. And that's enough for me to go, okay, I'm cool to mitigate some risk from that. Just before we go any further though, the people that are listening, that are interested, does that make sense? Or does that, because a lot of that's financial jargon sometimes. Just curious if like Elaine and Jolita, and maybe even Will, does that kind of make sense what we talked about there and why that's important? Whilst you're thinking, I'm going to come to Elaine quickly.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, cool. Okay, Ben, what's your question?
That's a good financial backing than something that's living off just, like you said, venture capital.
Yeah,
okay,
I totally get that, and I would love to go with Celsius, but don't you have to buy a certain number of coins and open up yet another layer of complexity? I haven't really looked into it, but it seems to involve buying tokens and owning a certain number of tokens in order to get the best interest rate. Is my understanding correct on that?
No. So there, between all of them, and I'm mentally picturing Nexo, BlockFi, Celsius, and Swissborg. All of these platforms offer interest if you just give them your coins. So you store your coins with them and you get paid. And we can put a clean full stop there. You don't have to do anything but download the app, register, complete your KYC, and that's it. And some of them will be more regulated than others, or as regulated as one can be. I know that Celsius are very clean and clear that they want to be approved in every country. So they'll meet whatever guidelines they need to meet. And so with Celsius, you just put your money in. Now, if you own 5% or more of your total portfolio in Cell tokens, then the amount that you'll be paid in interest increases. And if you own more than 15% of your total portfolio in Cell tokens, then you go up to an extra 10%, and so on and so forth. An extra 10% of the interest. So if you were getting 10%, you'll now get 11% because your interest has gone up by 10%. You do not need to own them at all. It's not a prerequisite whatsoever. When you're moving into some of the more decentralized forms of interest, yeah, they'll say, okay, you got to put this much money in, buy this token, lock it, and then that unlocks this. And that's the world of DeFi, which certainly for the people I speak to, like I discourage, because it gets complex really quickly. That's way past, treading water in the 1 meter deep sea. With accounts like Swissborg, if you lock up 50,000 Swissborg, which currently is like £30,000, $47,000, I think, they will double your interest. So you'll get anywhere up to a 30% yield per year, paid daily, compounded. And if you do the sum, that's what, sorry?
It's on stable coins, I think. I don't think it's on.
Yeah, that's only on stable coins. But if you do the sums on that, I think you turn 30 grand into a 37 grand. No, more than that. Sorry, 46 grand in 1 year. So like it exponentially grows very, very fast. But for that privilege, you have to lock up basically 50,000 US worth of coins. Does that give clarity, Ben, or do you think that creates more confusion for you? Or is that clear? And you can just unmute yourself if you want. You don't need to put your camera on.
That's helpful. The other thing is I tend not to use apps on a phone. Is it an app that you can use on a laptop? I don't trust cell phones.
Well, if I'm honest, honestly, your cell phone is safer than your laptop. Full stop. Like it, especially, I know that people have a lot of issues between iPhone and Android, but especially on an iPhone, it's so much more harder. Like there was an issue a while ago with people creating spam versions of apps and putting them on the App Store, Google not even checking, and then just average people downloading the fake version of the app, which then stole data, information, key logs, all sorts. You wouldn't get that on Apple. But I follow a guy on YouTube, a Chinese guy who de-Googles phones and all sorts. And it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to put software on your computer than it is your phone, because your phone works with apps. They're all like independent silos, and then the app requests information from the phone. On a computer, there's no silo. You can install an app or a piece of software on a computer, and it can obtain whatever information it wants from your computer. Whereas on a phone, you can't do that. So in terms of which is more secure, a phone is more secure than a laptop pretty much all of the time. And I'm just going to ask Dominic because I know he's quite a techie, if you would agree with that, Dominic, as well. You have to mute yourself. Yeah. In general, I don't want to go too detailed because I know you know a lot.
In general. Yeah, in general, I would probably agree with that.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. So I share that, Ben, because yes, Celsius is app only, and you'll find with a few crypto things, they're Swissborg app only, and they do that because I think like so much stuff is app only. I like desktop as well. I use a few things that are app and desktop, and I'm on my computer more. I have WhatsApp on my computer, Telegram, Signal. Like, if I could use Celsius on my laptop, I probably would. But try not to be discouraged from using an app because you think it's unsafe. And if you don't mind me asking, are you Windows or a PC for your laptop? Sorry, Mac or Windows? Oh, you muted. You're muted, Ben.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. My phone is an iPhone, but it's quite an old model, and it doesn't have much storage space for new apps. My laptop is a Windows. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What sort of Windows? Like, is it Windows Surface or Windows Dell sort of thing?
Yeah, it's an old Toshiba. It's running Windows 8.1 still.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. 8.8. Okay. So, a couple of things then on there. And this is like the other group that we're in, and we're talking about security and stuff. Not having up-to-date devices is one of the biggest security flaws you can have. I'm going to say a statement, Dominic. Afterwards, you tell me if you would agree with this. As another tech person, I'm going to rely on here. If you have if your technology is up to date, it's one of the easiest ways to get into it. In general, as a sweeping statement, Windows is a less secure platform than Linux-based Mac as a standard average everyday user. And therefore, if you have a Windows device and it's not up to date with an unsupported version of Windows, that increases your threats, your potential threats and hacks. Would you generally agree or disagree with that statement?
Yes, I would generally agree with that. I think Windows is one of the easiest systems for hackers to get into. As yeah, your points of like older systems make it just more likely to be breached.
Is Windows, and I don't think Windows 8.1 is even supported with updates anymore. A funny feeling they stopped a while ago. Will, did you have your hand up a minute ago? Or were you stretching? No, you're good. Okay. When will Windows 8.1 support ends? Oh, 2023. So 8 and 8.1 are still supported for a couple of years. I teach a lot of
7.
You're on 7. Okay. I teach a lot of tech clients, and I generally say to all of my clients that you don't need the most up-to-date software, but you do need technology that's equal to the level at which you need technology. So if you're a physiotherapist and you only deal with emails and you've got clients coming to you and you're happy with that, then you just need a device which allows you to do that. But if you're an online digital person and you're doing stuff online all the time and your main income requires that interface between me and the online world, you need technology that not only enables you to do what you need to do, but if I want you all to right now think about your digital lives, whether you're pro tech or against tech or anything, doesn't matter. You all have a digital life, and you have a lock on your door. You have, you keep your keys wherever you keep them in your physical world. When it comes to your digital life, like a lot of people over the age of 35 haven't really put into place measures to protect, nurture, and look after that digital life. I've had identity theft twice, and after the second time, I was like, wow, that's really, it really makes you think about stuff in a different way. And I've had a really big hack once in the business. And these are the things that sometimes once you see it happen or it happens to a friend of yours, it changes things. So you don't need the latest this, the latest that, but you definitely need to be secure. And no one ever thinks it's going to happen to them. And if you're in crypto, you absolutely need to be secure, because with sovereign finance and sovereign independence of wealth comes, what is a Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, I know Spider-Man wasn't talking about crypto, but just imagine he was talking about crypto. Then you'd need to really look after that stuff. So apps, phones, if Celsius is an app, I would think about it, Ben. If you've got an old phone at the minute, maybe just question why you're not upgrading. You can still sell that phone for some money to contribute to a newer device if you wished.
What can I just ask a quick question about Chromebooks, how they rate compared to Macs and Windows?
From a perspective of security?
Yeah, for doing this kind of crypto stuff.
Well, a Chromebook is basically a very big laptop version of an Android phone. I have a friend, I've got a friend whose partner bought her a Chromebook, and she just refers to it as her big phone. And in fact, Elaine, that's on this call, who is my mother, she also has a Chromebook, and it definitely was a bit of a learning curve, Mum, am I right, to begin with? How secure are they? I'm biased here. I don't like Google. I don't trust Google. And I feel for the average user that the privacy settings of Google are far too soft. And I feel that the ability for something to infect an Android device is substantially higher than an Apple device. I trust Apple to make more secure systems. Nothing's perfect. And I know that you can do a lot more with Google, but 97% of all people that use Google haven't got a clue of all of that stuff. And I had a big argument on a Telegram chat one day with someone, and his response, and I said, look, it's unfair to shout at everyone that's got Apple for being stupid when they should go to Google, because most people don't know how to manage it. And he said, it's not my fault people are stupid. They should educate themselves and learn. And the guy's like in his 20s, yeah. You tell that with all due respect to my mum, who remembers the day when she got given a mouse and had to learn micro muscle movements to move this thing here that moves something over here.
I so love you telling that story. Not.
It just shows how much you've grown, Mum. That's what it shows. And look, Ben's nodding as well. Like, so there's people that remember that, yeah. So like kids that wake up and have these. I saw a photo of Richard. Can I share the story of you with your kid today?
Yeah.
Do you want to share it? Like what you've got your kids doing? I mean in relation to their understanding something at a younger age.
Yeah. So my son, he's 8. He's been into, been following me, been interested in crypto for a long time, particularly sort of the lockdown year that we've been in, and just answering all the questions that curious kids have. That's what we've been doing with him, and we kept saying, we can pay your, if you want to learn about this, then the best way to do it is to start doing it. And so we started paying him his pocket money in Satoshis and Bitcoin, and he loved it so much that we started. We created his own wallet for him today. Obviously, we can't create somewhere for him to buy his own crypto or anything like that because he's not 18 yet. But yeah, we opened a wallet today, and he was writing his seed phrases down, and he was genuinely worried about what he was going to do about these seed phrases, where he was going to keep them, how he was going to manage it, and that sort of dawning realization of responsibility, I think, is something that is so key in crypto, where you really have to take responsibility for your own wealth, and that is very, very daunting. And I know in another group we're in at the moment, that is a conversation, a topic that's going on at the moment, and we're all inured against it because we're so used to people having control of that responsibility for us, but at the same time we also give up the responsibility of our own financial sovereignty and independence, basically. And so I got a massive buzz just seeing him, my son, writing his seed phrases down and having a moment about where he was going to do it. And I just said, if you lose these seed phrases, which are the only thing, if anyone doesn't know, the only thing that is going to allow access to the crypto that he's got stored on that wallet, then I said, you need to take responsibility for that, because if it goes, that's it. So I think, as terrifying as it is for all of us, it's a really great lesson to go through. And like Daniel says, the security we have to really think about at this level is so key. And it can seem daunting, but it doesn't have to be, and you have to remind yourself all the time to go that extra mile. So yeah.
So it's not familiar to us. So like this came about because Ben asked, you know, is a Chromebook, where does a Chromebook sit? All devices, Linux, Google, Mac, Windows, and Google and Windows, or Google and Mac are kind of built on something like Linux. Well, pretty certain Android is a Linux-based platform, and I know that Mac is built on similar software. Linux is really safe, but requires a lot more tech. Google made it a bit more user-friendly. Mac made their own on a similar sort of platform. They're all safe if you know enough about the platform to A, make it safe, and B, be able to check it to make sure it's safe. So it'd be wrong for me to say anything's unsafe. I prefer Apple because they've done a lot of the work for me. And I still do a lot on top of my devices, but they just do a lot. So it's definitely fine to use. But like Richie was just coming on to that last point there, you've got your wallets, and then you've got how you secure your wallet. So if you've got your seed phrase written on a piece of paper on a stone book that's fireproof and waterproof and all that sort of stuff, it kind of doesn't matter if your device is not safe, because if you've got two-factor authentication set up that requires a new address to be verified, but no one's going to be able to do that anyway. So, but then if you ever have to type your seed phrase into your Google, that's the only time, into your Chromebook, that's the only time you might want to think about it if you're safe, because if there is key logging software on there and you're typing your seed phrase, if I control that key logging software, I can type the same seed phrase over here, get access to your accounts. But then again, if it's got two-factor authentication and that is set up, then you'd be mitigated as well. So I hope that helps. It's going to come to Andy because I'm imagining it's a relevant question to right now. You're on mute, Andy.
So, yeah, I'm still a bit confused about these C phrases because at no point has any of my Coinbase wallets asked me for any C phrases. So is that something to do with the Ledger wallet, or which wallet does it refer to, these C phrases? That's where I'm baffled.
This comes down to, I didn't realize Antonopoulos created this term. But someone can finish it. If it's not your keys,
It's not your crypto.
Not your crypto. And so keys are, imagine the key to your house, yeah? And whoever holds the keys to the house can get into the house. When you use sites like Coinbase, Celsius, Binance, anything where you have if you have a username and password to log in, you probably don't have the keys. You've handed the keys to your crypto to somebody else to look after, and then in exchange, they give you a traditional username and password because that's what you're used to. And that's all exchanges and all of these sites. When you have a proper wallet, whether it's a hot wallet, which means it's on your computer, or whether you have a cold wallet that's on an external device like a Ledger or a Trezor or a Keepsafe, then you're given a seed phrase. There's usually 12 or 24 words in a particular order, which basically, if you think about it, is a really, 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 really long password. And means that it can't be what they call, can't be hacked by brute force, which is just like a computer trying to get into it. So you will have never seen a seed phrase if all you're using is Coinbase.
It's not really.
It's not a wallet. No, it's just it's a login to a platform, and then they tell you what you've got. And if you ever forgot your,
they do call it a wallet, which is why it's confusing. The same way of crypto.com will call it a wallet.
Yeah,
it's a wallet in the way that it's storing your crypto, but they own the wallet. You've only got access to it, as Dan says, so it's not your wallet. So you need something like a hot wallet or a cold wallet, basically. So if anyone wants to talk about that, maybe we can talk about that a bit again.
So does that kind of answer why we're talking about seed phrases there and stuff like that? And again, it's if on your, let's say you're in Ben's situation, you're going to get a new device and you're thinking of a Chromebook. If all you have is a Coinbase, then at least make sure that to log on to that Coinbase, you've got two-factor authentication. Anybody that's in crypto that has more than £100, well, even that could be like, if you're in crypto, you need to learn two-factor authentication, because without it, like so much of your lives are online, so much of them. And two-factor authentication is just a simple way to add an extra layer to doing something. I log on and it'll say you need your two-factor authentication. It means that if you did get hacked, nobody can get in. And if you don't have two-factor authentication, and if you don't have a password manager, the absolute least, with individual passwords for everything, it's so easy to unbook to do that sort of stuff. But if you don't, it's the easiest way to get hacked. Celsius 2FA doesn't seem to work. It works for me. If it's not working for you, Austin, then open a support ticket so that you can find out what it is. First, make sure your app's up to date. Second, make sure your phone's up to date. Third, restart everything. If that doesn't fix it, enter a support ticket.
Yeah, I had that problem. You have to delete it off and redo it. But make sure you've turned it off before you exit the app, otherwise you can't get back in. So disable two-factor and then delete it off your phone, then log out, making sure that you obviously disabled it within Celsius, and then you can log back in and do it again. And that's what I had to do. I got stuck, and I had to go through support for that as well. So it is a way that a problem that happens.
Let's just see here. Can people raise their hand if they use 2FA? Either click the button or raise your hand. If you're aware of and use 2FA, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So that's Austin, Alan, Angelita that don't. Okay, guys. So Andy, did you put your hand up for that? Sorry, you did. Okay, cool. Alan, either your camera's frozen or you've got a face that basically says, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. You're on mute. 1 second. You're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I have it on my phone. And I seem to remember it activating when accessing some of these apps last year, but for some reason it doesn't come into play when I'm on crypto.com or when I'm on Celsius. I don't know why. I never thought about it since then. So maybe it was somehow linked when I was on Coinbase at the very beginning, and maybe I never activated it for Celsius and crypto.com, and maybe I need to do something to link the two-factor authentication with those apps.
Yeah, you've got it. So usually you have to turn it on. So 2FA, as it's called for short, is not on by default. Some places it is. One of the ways I verify the integrity of a platform these days is I look at things and go, what security do they offer? And if they don't offer 2FA in 2021, I'm really questioning like everything. Like 2FA is just such a simple thing to integrate, and everyone I uses it, but if they didn't, I'd have a big question mark on it. So definitely look at integrating that. The best change I personally made was moving away from Google Authenticator, and I moved to Authy. And that allows me to have my 2FAs synced to different devices, because I lost my phone when I had Google Authenticator on, and I don't know if anyone here has had Google Authenticator and then lost their phone.
Oh,
Austin, I've just read it.
Didn't disable it before you left.
Yeah. Said try in an hour. Okay, cool. Has anyone ever lost their phone whilst using Google Authenticator?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. And how much of a pain is it?
Massive. So I now put all my backups in the same stone book that I do keep all my seed phrases in as well, so I can get back in. Need to.
Oh, you mean why does Google Authenticator have a backup?
Yeah, so Google Authenticator's got a backup, as Authy has as well, hasn't it? So yeah.
Okay, cool. So just really think about it, guys. Really think about it. And I just want to come back to
I clicked on Authy here. It says backup password reminder. This is a friendly reminder so you don't forget your password. I have no idea what my password is.
So that tells me you don't have a password manager. Is that correct?
I didn't realize I ever had one for Authy.
No. Do you have a password manager? So right now you have an app saying, hey, let's just make sure you remember your password. What is your method for password management?
I've got them down on a piece of paper here. That's
okay. So, Will, is that your method as well?
On Authy, and it's definitely not on here.
Okay, so everybody, this is going to be in our our modules. This is really good, Richard. Right? This is a whole module on this because it's easy. Yeah. We were in this RPB thing the other day, and one of the modules is like, you must have a password manager, right? That's a really great statement. I had a client once, literally like just for Christmas, and one of the things this client wanted me to do, she said, will you help me sort my passwords out? I said, of course I will. I said, we're going to integrate LastPass. And it took us like a week with a few calls, and she had passwords everywhere. Yeah, duplicate passwords and 9 different passwords for Amazon. Anyway, I onboarded this client to LastPass, and at the end, she said to me, she's like, how was I meant to do that on my own? And my answer is, I haven't got a clue. It's a lot of work to begin with. I promise you when it's done, life is simpler. But it isn't something, when you're moving from paper and a bit of a spreadsheet and 5 of them are in my head, it takes a bit of work and calm work to actually know the password's right and check it and make sure LastPass is clean. But once you're done, that piece of paper can go, and piece of papers get lost, they get scribbled on, and if you have to think of your password, it's probably not secure enough. That's something I got told as well. So I encourage all of you to ask yourself the question, what is my password management method? How do I create passwords? How do I store passwords? And how do I get access to them? And if it requires your brain, it's probably not good enough. Probably. Anyone got any comments on that? Oh, good.
So any idea on Authy, on this particular one, any idea what I would do? Because it says I can either ignore or verify. I wouldn't know what to do to verify because I don't remember ever having a password for Authy in the first place.
So Authy definitely has a password. You can just click, just let me go into mine and see if I can change the backup pin. Security, change pin, nope.
So obviously I could ignore.
Change password. 1 second. Enter a new backup password. Change. Okay. So I think you can press ignore.
Okay.
And then click on the cog in the top right.
Mm-hmm.
Click on accounts in the middle.
Accounts.
Yep. At the bottom.
Yep, got it.
And then at the top it says change password.
Uh-huh.
And it just says enter a new backups password.
Bro.
So it's not asking for the old one. Okay.
Great.
Cool. So just do it,
and it does,
slowly.
It has a forgot your password option as well, which is good.
Okay.
Correct.
So just slowly through all that. Okay. And Austin says keeping it on a piece of paper might be safest. It could be, but Richard's got something better than a piece of paper, but it's still the same as a piece of paper. What is it, Richard?
I'm just trying to find exactly what I got. You can buy this really expensive thing called the Stone Book, which has got a special pen on it that's basically waterproof and fireproof and all these things. I didn't go to that level. I just bought one that is completely waterproof and fireproof up to a certain point, so that if I need to, I can put it in a safe. And it's basically like one of these notebooks for camping. And so it's completely waterproof. And as long as you use pencil, it won't ever rub off. I will try and find the link. I got it off Amazon. You get 3 and they're quite reasonable price. So for me at the moment, they work, and I keep 3 copies of the same. I copy everything over 3 times basically. So it's got all my seed phrases in. It's got all my Authy passwords, Google backups,
And
everything.
where'd you keep them?
At the moment, in a secret place. One's in a vault, one's at home, and one is with a family member. So it's a bit of a pain in the arse when you add something new, which means that I have to try and get the stuff that I use right one time. Otherwise, I've got to do a massive round trip around the country to go and sort it all out.
Everything.
Yeah.
And herein is the whole conversation of security and convenience. There's the best comment I saw. I was reading a Reddit thread 2 days ago, and it said each of us have to make a decision on what level of risk we accept. Means, I'm not bothered about everything lower than that, and at the same time, a level of convenience we want to get to. And ideally, you want your convenience and your risk to be the same. But if I want to be this convenient, but I've only got this much risk, something has to give. And so there's no answer. There's no one size fits all. Everyone's unique. But understanding the different variants of convenience that you could have, all the way through to understanding the different risks that are capable, you might say, I don't think anything lower than that's going to happen to me. And so I'm you find that space where you're at.
One thing sorry, go on.
It's okay.
No, sorry, I thought you finished.
Go for it.
Okay. I think as well as in the last 3 or 4 months, there's been a massive acceleration in kind of convenience, and different projects and different platforms are coming out that are offering lots of different things. And if you watch any of the or keep up to date with any of the crypto news, a lot of the banks obviously are now worried that the DeFi, decentralized finance space, is taking all their business from fiat into crypto. So one way or another, they're going to move into crypto if they haven't already. And one way they're going to make people adopt it within their system is by becoming custodians. And so a lot of the banks have already got a lot of the same licenses that places like Celsius have to allow them to custody, i.e. keep hold of your crypto. So at that point, unfortunately, a lot of people are going to stop taking responsibility for their own crypto and give it to banks because it is easier. And I think getting into this habit now is really, really key, because we're going to give up that, that level of independence away from banks. And all that banks are going to do is, as soon as they've got your crypto, is start repeating the whole mess that they've got us into. They'll start doing fractional lending against crypto once it's in their custody, and people won't know that they're just recreating the same system, and they had an opportunity to exit the banking system. So I think that's something to be cautious of, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to link it back. So this came about because of Austin's comment about a piece of paper, and it's like, there is always something brilliant about pen and paper. We know pen and paper, but if you're going to use pen and paper, don't use paper. Just something that's at least waterproof, but definitely fireproof. It's easy enough to get. And I doubt the stuff you got, Richard, cost an arm and a leg. Was it fairly? No,
it wasn't at all. It's very cheap. Like I say, the stone books are really expensive, but I'll find it and I'll post it in the group.
Cool. I want to come back to, I want to say thank you first, Ben. That's really good and really valid questions, about tech, about what you're using, about how old it is, and the reasons we have for not upgrading sometimes. I used to try and squeeze everything I could out of tech, and then I just realized that it gets to a point, and actually I need tech that's working for me. And so now, I won't allow my phone to be more than 3 years old for an iPhone, 3 or 4 years old, and my laptop probably no more than about 4 years old. And as soon as you get a newer one, you realize how slow the older one was. For you, you might be able to stretch it a bit further. But thank you for those questions, because it really is good stuff to think about. Before that, when we're talking about Celsius and everything, Austin was talking about Nexo, which is similar. And so Richard in the comments said that Nexo is insured up to 100 million. But that covers all the crypto they lend out. That's not my understanding of insurance with sites like Nexo and Celsius. The insurance they have covers the crypto they have in cold storage only. So it doesn't cover lent out crypto. which is why it's important to understand how much crypto is stored on something and how much is lent out, because they're covered for this, because insurance companies can mitigate this. Where is it? It's here in a vault. Okay, well, show me your security measures, we'll insure it. So Nexo is insured up to 100 million. Celsius is insured up to 350 million. Again, only for cold storage. And if you could, Austin, you put as a quick side note, I like Nexus better than Celsius. Celsius offers higher rates, but is absolutely a pitta. I'm guessing you're not referring to the Vedic dosha.
Pain in the ass, is it? Yeah.
Oh. Is that a glossary term we need to add? Never heard of that one. Glossary. Pitta. Pain in the... Cool. I would like to know why Celsius is a pain in the ass. Curious on that. And then I just want to come back to tokens and different jurisdictions. If you can type that whilst we're just moving on to something. I find Celsius really, with their security, customer service. Okay. So interesting how people can have different, like I send them an email and get a response within a couple of days, which I'm happy with. In the world of crypto, again, try getting a response from Bank to the Future sometimes. Their customer service is terrible. I'm nodding from bed. Yeah, if you don't like someone's spot direct on Pachinski and magically got fixed within 5 minutes after weeks of waiting. I do think with every company, and I think of my old company, sometimes customers just fall through these cracks and have the most atrocious experiences. I've not found Celsius to be like that. And I would generally say in terms of care and support and community, I think they're up there. But if you like Nexo, that's also cool. But then from a safety perspective, so you full transparency, I do not think Nexo is safe. And when that flash crash happened, the way they treat customers that they lend out to, which will come back onto lending in a minute, I think it's atrocious. And I think it's one of the reasons that you need to be careful. So to nicely segues us on to lending, which was the purpose of the call. When you put your money in these sites and they give you a 10% return, they can give you that return because because they're lending it out for a profit, for a higher return. So, but what you can do is you can borrow against your assets. So let's just say you had one Bitcoin, and let's just say Bitcoin's worth $50,000. Then you've got one Bitcoin in this site here. You can borrow against it. And so why would you want to borrow against it? If I bought the Bitcoin for 10,000 and it's now worth 50, if I sell some of that to get some money, first I'm going to get taxed because I bought something for this much. I sold some of it when it was this high. That difference, the government's going to tax you on. And so you would want that because that's going to take some of your money away. The other reason you might not want to sell is because long term, you truly believe in Bitcoin. You just want to kind of borrow 10 grand out of it because you're going to do something with it. And we can talk about that in a minute. So you can borrow against it, but to borrow against it, you're going to lock up some of the Bitcoin here. So it gets locked, so you can't touch it. That allows them to lend it out, and then you get this bit of money here. When you do that, you'll be given some figures. So let's say that Bitcoin's, I'm going to keep it simple. Bitcoin is at 40,000, you're borrowing 10. If you're willing to lock up the whole Bitcoin, then you're actually only borrowing 25%. And they might say to you, so for example, with Celsius in the UK, you can borrow for 3 years at 0% interest. That's not a Freudian slip or whatever it might be. Like that's totally true. So if you're in the UK, you can borrow off Celsius at 0%. You don't pay a penny in interest. And in 36 months, you'll either pay back what you borrowed, which is 10 grand, no interest whatsoever, or they're speculating now because we're not 3 years down the line. They want you to just be able to click a button and carry on. The benefit they get is they get a whole Bitcoin locked up and they can lend that out. With other sites, you might pay different percentages. And if I wanted to borrow 75%, So of the 40 grand, if I want to borrow 30 grand, I think you pay like 5% or whatever it is. I don't even know at the minute. If someone can find the figures, that would be cool. But they'll give you some figures, and they'll give you two figures. They'll give you a margin call and they'll give you a liquidation call. A margin call means that if the price of Bitcoin drops to this point here, we're going to give you a margin call. It means you're, of course I will. I'll explain why I don't like Nexo. I'm going to give you a figure that if Bitcoin gets to here, it's close to the margin, is how I always think about it, of where we're going to cancel your loan. We're going to take the money and call it quits. So if you borrowed, if it was at 40 grand, this is Celsius. If it was at 40 grand and you borrowed 10, the margin call might be 13 grand. That means Bitcoin would have to drop to $13,000 before Celsius say to you, you've got a margin call. You've got a week to either top it back up so that you're at 25% or pay back your loan of 10 grand. If after a week you haven't, or if in that time Bitcoin drops to 11,000, then we'll liquidate you. That means that we'll take Bitcoin, we'll take the Bitcoin that you have stored, because by this time it's equal to how much you borrowed. So effectively, they don't lose out. And in a way, you don't really lose out either, because whatever they took from you at that time is equal to what you borrowed anyway. So that's a margin call and a liquidation call. One of the reasons why I don't like Nexo is the time Nexo have given clients to top up after a margin call is not workable. So Nexo gave, when XRP flash crashed from, I think it was like 60 cents, and it flash crashed to 20 cents. I had a friend who'd borrowed against his crypto, and he had 24 hours to top up. He was just going to bed when it happened, didn't see the email, slept, woke up, did some work, checked his phone, and he basically had 2 hours left to top up 50 grand in crypto. Now you can't even, you try and move 50 grand into a verification level 1 exchange and they will freeze your account. You're only allowed to move 10 grand at verification level 1. You're allowed to move 1 million at verification level 2, which requires a proof of address. He couldn't top it up in time. So he lost all of his XRP. And they've done it again since then of Nexo. And I personally find that the way they treat their community is not very good. And on top of that, what that shows me is that they haven't got the, this is my opinion, I don't think they have the financial capability to mitigate flash crashes, which is why they liquidate. Celsius will give you a week regardless. They'll even cover, what I said earlier wasn't true when I said you've got a week, or if Bitcoin collapses, they'll give you 1 week to top back up. And if after that 1 week you haven't topped back up, then you lose out. So the fact that they do that shows me that they have the capabilities to cover themselves, and at the same time they treat their clients well. Austin says, I'm not totally understanding why he lost it. Okay, Richard, do you want to have a go?
What's he talking about? Sorry, losing the...
Yeah, he's not understanding margin calls and why someone would lose their XRP if they don't fill up their margin.
Don't know how to
Or do you want me
explain.
to try it again?
Basically, you have to understand loan to values, I guess, don't you? I mean, that's key
Let me just
to
see if I
it.
can get a nice image. Here we go. Just 1 second. Pictures paint 1,000 words, don't they? Margin, equity, loss. Just give me a second. I'm just going to use this image. Make it bigger. Let me share my screen. If fact, before I do that, just asking everyone this question. Can't find cancel. There we go. Who, and it's totally safe space, who doesn't understand or would like a further explanation of what loan to value means? Just raise your hand if it doesn't make full sense to you what a loan to value means. Okay, so everyone kind of gets that enough. All right, cool. So the loan to value is really important because of this slide here. Let's do this then. I'm only bothered. Let's only look at this this first image on the left. Can people see my mouse moving? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So this here, imagine this was fully red. Sorry, full to the all the way up to here. This would be well, it says here $20,000, right? So someone here has locked up $20,000 and has borrowed this. I'm not really explaining that properly here, but let's just imagine this blue bit is what they borrow here. Yeah. So just for ease, we're going to call that 10. We're going to call that 5 grand. Yeah. So they borrow 5 grand out of a total of 20 that they lock up. So that means that there's 20 grand's worth of collateral. It's like someone saying, I'll let you look after my house that's worth 100 grand if you'll give me 25 grand in cash. I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's a cool deal. I've got control over your house, so you can't run away, and I'm going to give you 25 grand. So in this instance, someone's locked up 20 grand and they get 5 grand cash. A margin call is where if the price of that house starts to come down, how far does it come down before I start to get worried? So that the house was worth 20 grand, I've lent out 5. And the price of the house starts to drop 17, 16, 15, 14, 13. The house is now at 10 grand. I've lent out 5 grand. I'm not too bothered, right? But when the price of the house gets to 7 grand, I might say, I'm starting to get worried because I lent you 5 grand, but you locked up 20. But that 20 is now only worth 7. So I'm starting to get worried now. So at that point, I would say to you, look, if this keeps dropping, I'm going to keep your house. Or you need to give me some more equity. You need to give me another house to bring me back up to 20. Because the deal was, I'll lend you 25% so long as you lock up 100%. And now it's gone. Now the value of that 100% is worth less. In the instance of my friend, he had 40 grand's worth of XRP and he borrowed 10 grand against it. But over the space of overnight, the value of XRP dropped down so much that it got really close to his equity. He got close to his margin call. And he had 24 hours to top it back up with enough XRP. Now, there's a few more things that happened and they stopped buttons being pressed and things, but basically he didn't top it up. And so they took the whole lot because the whole lot was equal to what he borrowed. So, Austin, does that make more sense now? And in fact, let me unshare this. To anyone else, is that still really confusing? All good, all good. Austin says thank you. Okay, cool. So that's a margin call. I borrowed recently, partly out of test, and I'm doing a few things, and I borrowed at like 47,000 for Bitcoin. And I made the decision that it said Bitcoin would have to get to 13,000 for us to do a margin call and like 9,000 before you liquidated. And I made the decision that how likely do I think that's going to happen? And I decide that that's not going to happen. But I take the risk that if it does, I've got a week to get 10 grand, that's how much I took out of it, back into Celsius. And that's, again, that's risk and mitigating risk. That's my decision to make. but I'm very aware of where's the margin call and where's the liquidation call. So that's and so the whole Nexus thing is, I disagree with their philosophy of them as a company, how they treat their customers, and I don't think they're financially safe and secure. I do think Celsius is. So I trust Celsius to hold my money, because if Nexo went bust, I'm not protected. If Nexus got hacked and some of their money's in a deposit, then yeah, that protects me up to 100 million, but it's not. I'm not comfortable with the risk. And so that's why I don't use Nexus, and that is why I choose to use Celsius. So Austin, does that help answer that sort of question about the difference between them? Because when you look at BlockFi, Celsius, Nexo, Swissborg, they all offer similar services, but they are not equal. Makes you a bit nervous. It should do. All of this stuff should make everyone a little bit nervous, because that shows that you're thinking about it. If you haven't felt scared or nervous or questioned or confused in crypto, I'd be scared for you. I think I'm trying to think if that's a fair statement. I would, yeah, like it's sovereign money, and you could lose it like that. And I think people sometimes think crypto, oh, I'll just put my money in here and earn an interest. It's like the minute you're earning an interest, I'll come to you now, Elaine, you are handing over you're giving away something, and it's really important that you understand what you're giving away. Elaine?
A question. If you borrow against your crypto for however long you borrow it, do you have to pay, say you borrow £5,000, do you have to give them £5,000 back, or can you say, or take £5,000 from my Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever?
I can only answer for Celsius. You pay back the loan in whatever you borrowed the loan in. You can email them. So for example, Celsius only offer loans in USD, fiat, and USDT, the crypto version of fiat, stablecoin.
Yeah.
So they say you got to pay back in what it is. But if you want to pay back in the other, you just email them. So if I borrowed it in USDT, I can pay them back in fiat, but I need pre-approval. If you happen to wanting to pay back in Bitcoin, though, that's not difficult. You would just sell. Say you borrowed $500, you'd sell $500 worth of Bitcoin, and then pay them back.
The other good thing is as well with Celsius, which I don't think you get with Nexo at the moment, is if your loan to value, say the price of your Bitcoin, you borrow, let's say 40K and Bitcoin goes up past the loan to value, then they kind of release that collateral back to you. So it could liquidate the loan in the opposite direction.
Yeah,
I think that's the case. It's not automated.
It is the case. Yeah, so if your loan to value halves, so if you borrow at 25%, so you borrow 10 grand, Bitcoin's worth 40, so you're at 25%. If Bitcoin goes to 80, then your loan to value drops to 12.5%. At that point, you can either borrow another 12.5%, which would be another 10 grand, or you can reduce how much you've borrowed. So in effect, you'd be paying back some of your loan. So Elaine, does that answer your question on paying stuff back?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. And Austin says, I have a decent amount in Nexo. Think about these sorts of things. I mean, it's good to diversify. You could argue it's not safe. Let's say you had 100 grand. You know, is it as safe to put 100 grand into Celsius? Well, in a way, no, because, you know, your eggs are all in one basket. But then if you're going to split some of it up and put it in another thing, yes, you've diversified, but that thing might be more risky than that thing. So there's a lot of existential questions in crypto that there's no answer other than the answer that you give. you know, until you come to ask that question and work with it and have a look at it, and you can make life transforming amounts of wealth and generational wealth. You can earn massive passive income that Ben's looking to achieve just through making his money work for himself. But then it's always understanding the risks, because in traditional finance, you're covered. There's just so much thought about that you don't have to think, but they give you this much. In fact, right now we're on negative. So actually, like in some countries, if you have a bank account, they're charging you. Just really think about that. So there's a constant trade-off, but in my opinion, there's nothing greater than us all being more aware of our own financial wealth, our own financial sovereignty, and asking those questions of security and everything that comes with it. The next 10 years, cyber theft and crypto hacking is going to be in my opinion, the #1 leading form of fraud and crime. It's just going to be massive. And it's not going to go away, and it'll be a constant cat and robber sort of chase. So really thinking about this, and in the DeFi world, the dark, shouldn't call it dark, I'm going to call it complex DeFi world. I still can't get my head around flash loans and writing contracts that siphon money out of pools. I can kind of get it enough, but it's so clever, some of the stuff that people do, and people go into that world for the most part understanding it, but a lot don't. They just see the gains. And there's an age-old saying that many people overestimate what they can achieve in a year and underestimate what they can achieve in 10. So just if you're playing a long game with it, safety and security and just continually doing stuff will always win over quick wins. Austin says it might be a lucrative business to get into, cyber theft company. Yep, and they are popping up everywhere. But you kind of have to know a lot about cyber theft, or at least pull the right people together. I enjoy that part of the internet and that part of technology. It moves so quickly, man. It's crazy, really, really crazy. So we're coming to the end of the call. I'm just curious if people got any last sort of questions, or if anything in particular for anybody has been quite a big aha moment that they'd like to share. Ben?
Yeah, I'm just wondering where you guys get your recommendations for altcoins. I know we didn't really get beyond Celsius and Nexo and things, but how do you, there's so many thousands of altcoins out there. How do you guys choose which ones to invest in?
If I think, because we're not going to have our thing that me and Richard are doing ready for next week, why don't we just make next week about talking about altcoin picks? Because I know Austin wants to talk about that. A few others do. I'll repeat that in a minute. That Austin, he's gone again. I'll tell him anyway. It's such a big one, really. And there's a big asterisk next to that, because as soon as you start going into altcoins, there's so many different strategies that if you applied this strategy of how you would do it and then picked an altcoin over here, that strategy wouldn't work with that altcoin. And so it's really understanding that you can pick what altcoins are going to explode, but if you haven't got the time frame right and you're not doing the right strategy, you'll lose everything. So if it's okay with yourself, Ben, if you can't make it for next week's call, we'll record it. And for Austin who's listening, we're going to do next week's call just on picking altcoins. And for caveat, me nor Richard, we just know what we know. That you could listen to two other people who will tell you two completely, 10 advisors around the table don't all agree. Because if there was one size that fits all, we'd all just do it, and then it wouldn't fit all because it wouldn't work. So it kind of needs everyone doing all the strategies. So if that's okay with yourself, Ben, to Austin, make sure you're on for next week as well for gems. I'd love to know from a couple of people if anything in particular from this call was really useful for them, because it is important for us to know that these calls are beneficial, really. So any people want to share any gems that they...
Lots has been useful, thank you. I'm still very, very cautious, and yeah, well, cautious, but also don't have a lot of money to invest, but wanting to. So I am learning. So thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you, Angelita. Remember, you don't need a lot, even if it's £5 a month. The key is to just start.
Okay.
Everyone always waits till they have lots of money to compound and lots of money to invest. If everyone just started investing when they were 20, by the time we're 40s, you'd have a lot of things sorted. So just try and remember that, and always know if you want to, like, I'm good friends with you anyway, you're welcome to just reach out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else with any other points of usefulness for them on this call?
Austin's just asking again.
Just want to say thank you for the group. Yeah, really appreciate the knowledge and the Telegram group and everything, and the WhatsApp group for the FLT. And thanks for all your work, guys.
Cool. No worries, man. Thank you very much for showing up again. Richard, what did you want to say?
Austin's just asking again the question, do you think I should get out of Nexo? I think, as Daniel said, it's not really, I think diversifying is a good practice, but I think the best thing you can do is do your research as much as you can on both Nexo and Celsius, and look for bad and good, you know, anything online you can find about them. And then, you know, you have to do what feels comfortable for you, really. I think it's not, I don't think there's a reason for you to get out of Nexo, but you have to make your own decision really on that, I think. And the only way to do that is to go digging a little bit and spend that time on it.
Yeah, I think at a core point for crypto is the understanding that if it's not your keys, if it's not in cold storage or a hot wallet, like if it's not offline, so to speak, then as soon as it's not, there is risk. I mean, there's risk over here, but it's like usually risk to do with you, human error and losing your keys and things like that. But as soon as you put it on something, your risk just shot up. There's what we call counterparty risk, which means third-party risk that you can't control. And it's good to feel that, because we've never felt it. We have very little experience in the emotions of actually having to think about the safety of our wealth and finances and crypto and all of this sort of stuff. And it's the biggest part within sovereign finance that at some point the penny drops, and that penny dropping usually is this awareness that, like, you know, shit, I've got to look at this stuff and think about things I never thought about. So chat within the group, speak to people, see how other people think, find other people's opinions. That is the best thing with sense making. One of the other groups that I don't actively push anymore, but the sense making group, sense making 101, is find someone that loves Nexo, find someone that hates Nexo, and find out why. Have a see what they think. So there's no answer with it all. It is really about just us all going out there and making our own way in it. But by creating this group, we can all share in something along the way. As for Bitcoin price predictions, we will leave that for the group. I know it's touching 50K at the minute, but just understand this is crypto, and as Lark used to say, it's the wild, wild west of crypto. I know he's stopped saying it now, so anything can happen. But this is a long game. I still love the saying, generally speaking, graph, arrow, pointy, uppy, uppy. So we're going in one direction. There'll be a massive journey along the way. And we can all share in that, support each other and help each other. If you know other people that want to get into crypto, I am really starting to encourage people now, like if they're wanting to and haven't, just edge them, whether it's into our group, whether you want to speak to them about it. Now is the time to kind of make that decision, because at some point this bull run will finish and it'll be another 4 years on from that. So we'll leave you with that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again, Richie, for always helping out, getting involved in these calls. Thank you everyone for showing up. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will speak to you all soon. And next week we will do altcoins and predictions and everything else. Thank you, Ben, for showing up for the first time, and everyone else, take care.